seen from the cases, a single factual scenario may give rise or involve obligations based on one or two or all three. That notwithstanding, now you also know that there are distinctions between and amongst these three sources of obligations, and these distinctions are set out in the cases. First, you look at the distinctions between contracts and look up the distinctions between contracts and identity. And you know that these two sources of obligations may be distinguished on the basis of the following criteria. First, the source of the juridical tie, source of the obligation. In contracts, you know that, of course, it's a pre-existing contract that is the source of the obligation, whereas in case identities, it's the negligent act itself that is the source of the obligation, subject to the qualification that does not mean that there are no duties involved in case identities. As explained in Campo, there are duties involved in case identities, and those are the mutual duties owed by members of civilized society to each other, not to harm or not to injure others, to observe the diligence required of good fathers in the family in order to avoid injuring other people. Second, you also know another distinction between contracts and case identities are the requisites to establish a cause of action. If your cause of action is based on contract, then in order to establish a prima facie meritorious case, all you have to prove are the existence of the contract and breach. Note, however, that as we saw in this act, the court said that you don't necessarily win, the plaintiff does not necessarily or automatically win once he is able to prove the existence of the contract and breach. That merely establishes a prima facie meritorious cause of action. Of course, the defendant is able or will or may be able to raise defenses in order to evade liability for his breach of contract. So in order to establish a prima facie meritorious cause of action in a breach of contract cause of action, all the plaintiff needs to establish are the existence of contract and breach. Whereas, on the other hand, in order to successfully establish a cause of action based on case identity, you have to prove the negligence of the defendant alongside all the other requirements set out in jurisprudence in relation to 2176. Related to this, and the reason why you don't need to prove negligence or fault in cases involving breaches of contract is because, as you saw in Huang, the Supreme Court in Huang said that in breach of contract cases, negligence is presumed. So the reason why in breach of contract cases, the plaintiff at the get-go or at the outset need not prove fault or negligence on the part of the defendant is because the fault or negligence on the part of the defendant is already presumed. The basis of the presumption is the breach of the contract itself. So if there's a breach of contract, negligence or fault on the part of the defendant is already presumed. The same is not true as a general rule in case identity cases, as we'll see later on. Third, you also distinguish them on the basis of applicable defenses. You know that the defense, for example, of due diligence in the selection and supervision of employees is available in case identity cases, and we'll get to that more post-midterms. And at the same time, you know that that defense, due diligence in the selection and supervision of employees, is not applicable in breach of contract cases, because if it were, then all persons who act through agents will practically enjoy immunity from liability or from suit. Because then they can simply evade liability on the basis of their contracts by saying it's his fault, not mine, even if I were the party involved or bound by that contract. The fourth distinction, and we saw this in Spouses Guanyo, is that proximate cause, as a general rule, has no function or is irrelevant. Sorry, it's not correct to say that it has no function in breach of contract cases. The more accurate statement is that the doctrine of proximate cause is not utilized in breach of contract cases to ascertain or to determine liability, to determine whether or not the defendant is liable. However, and we'll get to this again later on, it is relevant in breach of contract cases for other purposes, just not for the purpose of determining whether or not the defendant is liable. because the defendant is liable if there is a breach of contract, if there is a contract and there was a breach of contract, and the breach of contract is not justified. So proximate cause is not relevant for purposes of determining liability in breach of contract cases. On the other hand, proximate cause is essential in quasi-delicate cases because if you don't establish that the fault or negligence of the defendant is the proximate cause of the damage or injury sustained by the plaintiff, then you don't win in a quasi-delicate cause of action. So these distinctions you saw in cases, but then again, you know that there are instances, and we'll get to this again later on, there are instances when a single factual matrix may give rise to both obligations based on contract and obligations based on quasi-delicate. We'll get to that in a few minutes. We then moved on to the distinctions between quasi-delics and delics. And again, why did we look into this? Because there are instances when you have both quasi-delics and delics involved, arising from a single factual scenario. But then again, you cannot take the distinctions between these two for granted. Because if you do, then you'll mix up legal principles, you'll mix up legal rules, and you end up misapplying legal doctrines and legal rules. Basic distinctions. First, the interest involved. Of course, in delict cases, it's public interest involved, whereas in quasi-delict cases, it's only private interest involved. Second, the scope of delicts and scope of quasi-delicts. You know that in delicts, when you talk about crimes, there has to be a penal law defining and punishing an act as a crime before you can file a criminal case against the accused, i.e., nullum crimen nulla pena sine lege. On the other hand, in quasi-delicts, it's any instance, any scenario where fault or negligence intervenes. So you need not have a specific law. For example, medical malpractice. There's no specific law dealing with medical malpractice, and yet it's subsumed and it is actionable on the basis of 2176. Any case in which fault or negligence intervenes. Third, the purpose of delicts and vis-a-vis quasi-delicts. The purpose of our penal laws is retribution, as well as rehabilitation of the offender. On the other hand, in terms of quasi-delicts, the purpose of quasi-delicts and actions for quasi-delicts is indemnification, to enable the injured party to recover damages. And it's linked to the interest involved in delict vis-a-vis quasi-delict cases. Fourth, the quantum of evidence involved. As you know, in criminal cases, you do not obtain a conviction on evidence that is less than proof of guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Whereas in quasi-delict cases, given its nature as a civil case, preponderance of evidence will prove. Fifth, you also know, or you want to know, on the basis of conspiracy, criminal liability is not subject to compromise. However, civil liability may be compromised. So availability of compromise. And lastly, and we'll get to this again later on, post-midterms, available defenses. Sorry, I forgot. Another distinction, important distinction, between contracts and quasi-delicts, recoverable damages. So there are certain kinds of damages that are recoverable, or that as a general rule cannot be recovered in breach of contract cases. But then on the other hand, in quasi-delict cases, there are also some kinds of damages that cannot be recovered in quasi-delict cases, as you learned later on. Whereas damages that are ordinarily not recoverable in breach of contract cases are usually recoverable in quasi-delict cases. So why did we go through this? We went through this because properly characterizing and ascertaining or determining what cause of action is involved in a case will determine what rules you ought or should apply. And if you mischaracterize or if you misanalyze a factual scenario wrongly, then you'll apply all these rules incorrectly and you end up with the wrong answer. So the very first, the most crucial, important step in any tort question or in any question involving these three sources of obligations is properly characterizing what cause of action is involved, what source of legal obligations is involved. And if there's more than one cause of action involved, then what cause of action should you pursue? What cause of action would be more beneficial or most beneficial for your client? Is your client looking to ruin the life of his opponent, in which case a criminal case is what you go for. But if your client is merely looking to recover damages, then why would you file a criminal case where you make life more difficult for yourself, when you can simply file a civil action based on the same act as police identity? However, and then this is when we went on to those two cases, or several cases, because it wasn't only those two cases. Those cases which illustrate that a single factual scenario may again give rise to two or more of these sources of obligations. We'll get into the cases or the requirements or the factual scenarios involving quasi-delicts and contracts later on. But you saw in Barredo and Elcano that the cases involving quasi-delicts and delicts essentially say that a single criminal act or single act or omission, whether it's through fault or whether it's through negligence, may constitute not only a criminal act under delict, but it may likewise constitute a quasi-delict, provided that two requirements are present. First, there's a private offended party. Second, the private offended party sustains damage. If you're talking about an act or omission that is a crime, but that does not involve any violation of any rights of private offended parties, or does not give rise to any damage or injury on the part of the private offended party, then there's no sense in treating that same criminal act as also giving rise to an obligation based on quasi-delict. You can only treat a delict as likewise giving rise or simultaneously giving rise to an obligation based on quasi-delict if there's a private offended party and if the private offended party suffers damages. That's what you ought to have learned on the basis of Pareto. So is this clear? You should not, the very first thing that you should, the thing that you have to have in mind when you approach any tort problem or any problem involving these three sources of obligations is, okay, what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with a contract situation? Are we dealing with a quasi-delict situation? Are we dealing with a delict situation? Because if you get that first step wrong, everything else goes to hell. Do you follow? Okay. We then focus on our case, or on our course on quasi-delict, the elements of quasi-delict, of an obligation based on quasi-delict, and this is defined in Article 2176 of the Civil Code. The very first element or requirement for quasi-delict, which the Supreme Court has largely taken for granted in more recent cases, is that there must be no pre-existing contractual relationship between the parties. No pre-existing contract between the parties. This is very clear in Article 2176 of the Civil Code. Whoever by act or omission causes damage to another, there being fault or negligence, is obliged to pay for damage done, such fault or negligence. If there is no pre-existing contractual relationship between the parties, it's called a quasi-delict and shall be governed by the provisions of this chapter. So it's clear that if there is a contract, if there's a contract between the plaintiff and the defendant, as a general rule, you cannot apply the rules of quasi-delict. An obligation based on quasi-delict cannot simultaneously arise alongside obligation based on contract, as a general rule. However, you know that there are exceptions to that rule. In which cases where the exception applies, an obligation based on